My name is JP Lee. I've been a serial entrepreneur / investor, for over 10 years. As a matter of fact, I'm co-chairman of the board of a company I founded, in 2019. We are transforming the future of cancer therapeutic, development in both China and also here in the United States through investing of building cancer hospitals as well as investing in the technology space. So we would like to try to integrate AI with the disease treatment of technology that we're investing. That's why I'm very excited to be here to meet with like-minded leaders and also to share our perspectives in the area of healthcare AI. I think AI will eventually permeate every single dimension of all businesses, both domestically, internationally. There is a huge rising capital expenditure, and also there's a shortage, for example, physicians, of specialists existed, I think, in the United States and also as well in other countries. Let's say we build an AI-enabled wearable device, and for example, a physician, let's say in New York, could track the performance of patients, for example, heart rate and other metrics, thousands of miles away. Also, I come from the perspective of the payer side, which is, let's say, healthcare provider, the hospital side. There is a huge amount of administrative budget allocated out of revenue for the hospital on annual basis. Let's say it's probably 20-25%. There's so many ways in which we can try to increase the efficiency of how hospital operated. For example, the physicians, probably spend at a minimum 20% of their time not treating the patients, actually just on administrative duties in the hospital, spending time on different kind of paperwork. And all this, data management, informatics management system are very scattered, so we can somehow create an integrated solution, AI-enabled, that, kind of integrate all the functionality together. You will create tremendous value in the sense that you'll probably create at least, for a large hospital system on annual basis, probably $50 to $100 million savings, could be even more, right? That's a huge, saving on that. Lastly, I guess from the perspective of the fact that we plan on investing in the pharmaceutical sector, a lot of therapeutic technologies, in healthcare, it has to go through the clinical trial process. So I think if we can figure out an AI analytics platform in which you actually optimize, right, the clinical trial patient recruitment, and also you will shorten, for example, the whole clinical trial process. You will even predict the success rates of clinical trials. So all of which will create tremendous value from the venture capital investing standpoint. I think the healthcare founders, kind of faces a, unique kind of challenge because, most of the time, the healthcare startups is a little bit different from, for example, from just a regular tech startup, because healthcare is very regulated, especially if you're in some kind of disease treatment or some kind of even medical devices. Developing new drugs that have to go through, for example, clinical trials. I think number one thing we would like to see, we say we invest, in the people, right? So the makeup of the team is extremely important, right? Obviously, the core technology solution is also extremely important, right? Yeah, it has to be that there's no severe flaws that cannot be overcome, right? In terms of core technology itself. So management team, because a lot of times healthcare startups, we see a makeup of kind of founders with scientific background, even like, for example, former professor, even current professors, or people with holding MD, PhD degrees, right? But what we like to see is, for example, someone maybe have a PhD or MD, from a top university in biomedical science, whatever it may be. But we also like to see, does this person, the CEO or the relevant members on the team, do they actually have relevant experience in terms of having experience creating a regulatory pathway, designing clinical trials, right? Who to partner in clinical trials, or where to hold the clinical trials. Very relevant experience, and also we would like to see, kind of also people involved as part of the management team, maybe more so on the business development, side, or a little bit financial side, whatever it may be. They possess, very strong, business, experience in general, right? And this person, may have a lot of scientific background, but this person is being a serial entrepreneur. And also it's And also very importantly, we'd like to see a very scalable model, right? So it has to be something that has potential to grow both domestically, internationally, on exponential basis, because it's highly risky, to invest in this kind of companies. So we would like to see this kind of potential. AI has been transforming the healthcare industry already. It will continue to do so. Really excited, particularly, for example, because we are creating a portfolio of therapeutic, technology portfolio, via partnerships with different institutions, hospitals here in the United States. So our focus for our next fund is actually to figure out a pathway by investing in AI-driven innovative startups, in the sense that it creates a seamless integration of how the company could help us, right, to best design the clinical trials very efficiently, right? It provides solutions of helping kind of recruiting patients, make that process more efficient, right? More importantly, right, it will actually shorten, for example, the entire clinical trial process. For example, in the pharmaceutical sector, usually it takes 10, 12, even 15 years sometimes to go through multiple periods of trials. I think with integration AI, we'll probably be able to shorten that by quite a bit. What that means, from the investor perspective, because investing in finance, we often talk about risk-return profile, right? So I feel that, the integration of AI will really be able to help us, improve the risk-return profile, because what we call, in a lot of life science healthcare companies is something called the valley of death, right? Meaning that there's a whole period of time, years, the company is not generate anything because it takes, for example, 10 years to develop a drug that cures cancer. Once it happens, right, it will create, more importantly, not just the financial value upside for all the stakeholders, but more importantly, it creates very strong, social value for everyone else. So I think, and also the AI technologies integration could also help potentially to help us predict the success rates of the clinical trials. So we'll be able to figure out, right, what is the best timing, or what is the best company to get involved with, or should we allocate more capital? Should we allocate less capital? Should we get a strategic partner? So a little bit that. And second part is probably, as I said, coming from, the payer, hospital, healthcare provider side, right? If we can figure out, there's also healthcare software platform technology. We have also looked at in the past. We'll continue to look for that. That kind of creates a very seamless flow of patient data management, and also that able to help hospitals to generate a very efficient process of integrating all the key information that allows, for example, especially the physician, to be able to focus on treating the patients without hurting the hospitals in generating any existing or additional revenue. So I think we're very excited about those two things about it. I think more specifically, I think I talked a little bit, previously, the clinical trial aspects, optimization, the improvements, the fasten the process, all those things are really great. But really, to me, I really believe in, focusing on the, because what we say in VC, venture capital, is that is really who's going to pay for it. It's like, what is your marketplace? What we talk about in the sense is that the number one thing for founders to do is to figure out there's a certain gap that exists in the marketplace, and we'll work backward in filling the gap. I see that there's a lot of founders kind of focused on that. So I think that's the first step. And the second step, we can create a new marketplace for that. Coming from the payer hospital healthcare provider side, yeah, like I said, I think if you can come up with any kind of solution that really helps the hospital to really operate on a very efficient basis, creates all this saving for the hospital. That in itself, the hospital will be sending you purchase order. I think that the healthcare informatics, that's really going to be the future. Obviously, healthcare informatics could include, the clinical trials application to it. So healthcare informatics, that also includes the medical devices that I just discussed. Just in general, just try to figure out a way to tie it in with the pay. Whomever is, is signing the check, right? That's really very important. So I try to come from, the perspective of the fundraising advice, for especially healthcare funders, because as I said, most healthcare startup company takes relatively a little bit longer time, just compared to other, for example, tech platforms, and and some of which could be somewhat similar, but in general, I think that it's very important for the founders to nurture relationships with investors. It's like you connect with someone on LinkedIn, you meet someone in person. There's nothing wrong, in terms of sharing, someone with a deck, right? But my experience, because I've been fundraising my whole life, it's like a lot of time people will come back to you after a year, 2 years, and do a deal with you, right? You just cannot be in a rush. You have to take a long-term mindset rather than short-term mindset, right? To really nurture those relationships, because the VC investor, angel investor, right? You're such a early on stage, right? We're investing in the people. We invest in you, right? So it's very important at a very early stage that people spend some time getting to know you, right? As you become more established, you get to the Series A, Series B stage, then that's a little bit different. Additionally, a little bit side note is also we care about founders, who also care about investors' money, right? The unit economics is also very important, right? It's not just let's go out there and spend $3 million a budget, doing all this. All that is great, but it has to be justified. You have to have the mindset of knowing, right? Understanding the unit economic aspect. So I think that's also very, very important.